I couldn't wait to get home and relax after a long day at work. But as I pulled into the driveway of our new house in suburbs, the last thing I expected to see was my sister-in-law Janice's old minivan parked crooked on the lawn. My heart sank when I saw suitcases and boxes being taken out. Janice came out the front door, yelling at her two teenage sons. "Hurry up and get the rest of your stuff from the car." I marched over, already angry. "What is going on here?" Janice turned around, her dyed blonde hair flying. "Oh hey, sis. Surprise. We're moving in." "The hell you are?" I shouted. "This is my house. I paid for it. You can't just move in without asking." She waved her hand like it was no big deal. "Relax. Austin said it was fine. You know I've been having a hard time lately." Of course Austin would do this behind my back. My husband could never say no to her, no matter how crazy her requests were. The front door opened again, and Austin stepped out, looking guilty. "Hey babe, I didn't know you'd be home this early. You didn't think to tell me your sister was trying to move into our house?" I snapped. Janice gave me a look. "Who are you calling a deadbeat? I've just been going through a rough time since my divorce." "For the last 6 years," I shot back. "Maybe fix your own life instead of living off us." "Girls, please, let's calm down," Austin said weakly, trying to keep the peace. I turned to him, furious. "No, I won't calm down. After everything we did to get this house, how could you do this to me?" Janice gave him a smug smile.
"Yeah, Austin.
Don't you think your wife deserves a little respect for once? I'm family, after all." The look on her face said it all. She knew exactly what she was doing. She thought she could walk all over me, and my husband wouldn't stop her. He never stood up to her. This was just the latest in a long list of times she pushed her way into our lives. Seeing Janice show up and take over our home reminded me of how badly she acted at our wedding 8 years ago. That should have been a warning. Marrying into this family meant dealing with her drama. It was a beautiful summer wedding at the Rose Garden Pavilion. My parents had worked hard to give me the perfect day. I was smiling as I walked down the aisle with my proud father, looking at Austin waiting for me. But that happiness didn't last. Janice showed up late, as usual, and clearly had been drinking. She wobbled down the aisle, waving at everyone like she was the bride. My mom's face turned bright red with embarrassment. During the vows, Janice kept laughing loudly. When Austin got nervous and stumbled over his words, she shouted, "Speak up, lover boy." After we were married, Janice ran up to us, threw her arms around Austin and yelled, "My baby bro is all grown up. Time to celebrate." She ripped the flower off his jacket and grabbed a half-finished beer from a table, chugging it in one go. "Let's get this party started," she yelled, spilling beer all over my white wedding dress. I gave Austin a shocked look, expecting him to say something. But he just gave a small shrug, like he didn't want to cause trouble. This became a common pattern. Janice made a mess, and Austin let it slide. That night, the reception fell apart because of her. She dragged Austin outside just before our first dance, saying it would only be a minute. He was gone for 37 minutes, while she smoked cigarette after cigarette. When she finally came back, her makeup was smeared, and her hair was a mess. Then she grabbed the band's microphone and started giving a slurred, rambling speech. "My baby brother got himself a hot little thing, didn't he?" she slurred, winking at me like it was a joke. It was a disaster, and just the beginning. I wanted to disappear from embarrassment. Austin just sat there looking uncomfortable, too shy to take control of his own wedding. Then came the worst part. Janice thought it would be funny to smash cake in Austin's face while we were cutting the wedding cake. She shoved the frosting into his eyes and mouth while I stood there in shock. "What's the matter? I can't take a joke," she sneered before stumbling away. Some guests started leaving early, clearly annoyed. A few gave Austin angry looks, hoping he'd finally stop his wild sister. My parents looked like they regretted everything, like they wished they hadn't married me into such a messy family. Now here we were, 8 years later, and Janice hadn't changed at all. As I looked at her and Austin standing there, acting like everything was fine, I couldn't help but wonder if I'd made a huge mistake marrying into this family. I should have known Janice would be just the start of my troubles. A few weeks later, We had a small birthday party at our new house for our son's 8th birthday. We invited a few kids from his class for some games and pizza. But of course, Janice showed up uninvited and took over the day like always. "Nice little kitty party," she said with a smirk as she walked through the door, carrying 2 huge gift bags. "But you know me. I had to go all out for my favorite nephew." She shoved the bags into my arms so hard I almost fell over. Her teenage sons, Noah and Peter, walked in without saying anything, their eyes stuck to their phones. Austin gave her a forced smile. "Thanks for coming, Janice. The kids are out back playing games." "Games, shames," she said loudly. "Wait until Jeremy sees what I got him. He'll be the talk of the neighborhood." I looked in the bags, and my heart sank. She had brought a fancy video game console and a stack of violent shooting games, completely wrong for a 9-year-old. I gave Austin a sharp look, but he just looked away. For the first hour, the party went well. The kids were happy, playing games and eating pizza. Jeremy was having a great time with his friends. But then Janice got bored. "Why don't we make this boring party more fun?" she said, grabbing Jeremy's new gaming console. "Who wants to see me beat you at this new shooting game?" she shouted at the wide-eyed kids. I stepped in and gently put my hand over the console. "Janice, I don't think those games are right for this age." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, relax. They're just games. I was playing zombie and alien games at their age. Didn't hurt me," Janice said. Before I could stop her, she walked right past me and started setting up the violent game. The boys were glued to the screen. "Janice, Gloria's right. Let's put that away for now," Austin finally said in a quiet voice. Janice rolled her eyes. "You two are so boring," she groaned. "I'm the cool aunt, remember?" She turned the volume way up, and the room was suddenly filled with loud gunfire and awful screaming from the game. Some of the parents gasped and started gathering their kids to leave. Janice didn't even notice. She laughed loudly as she shot bloody characters on the screen. "Hey kids, come watch Annie Janice go wild," she shouted. I felt my face burn with shame and anger. "That's enough," I said firmly. "You're ruining my son's party with this awful stuff." Janice spun around and shoved the game controller in my face. "Maybe if you got that stick out of your stuck-up, but you'd learn how to have fun," she snapped. That was the final straw. The rest of the parents grabbed their upset kids and rushed out. Some gave me looks of pity. Even Jeremy started crying. And Austin? He just stood there, frozen like always, never able to stand up to his bullying sister. I had hit my limit. As the last parent left, I turned to Austin, furious. "Your sister has gone too far this time. If you don't deal with her, I will, and you're not going to like it." After Janice's awful behavior at Jeremy's party, I knew I had to take things into my own hands. She couldn't keep walking into our lives and making everything worse while Austin just stood there. The next morning, I started collecting proof of her bad behavior. I found old texts and emails where she insulted me and asked for ridiculous things. I recorded voice messages of her yelling whenever she visited. And I also saved anything that showed how Austin allowed her to act this way, including voicemails. Austin had sent me so many messages making weak excuses for Janice's actions. I had screenshots of him asking me to be the bigger person and let things go, even after Janice insulted me. It was like a messed up back and forth, but the truth was clear now. Both of them were in the wrong. Janice was loud and pushy, but Austin's silence and weakness made it worse. As my file of proof kept growing, I made an appointment with a divorce lawyer. Her name was Catherine. She was a small woman wearing a pinstriped suit. I told her the full story, trying to stay calm and serious. "So basically, my sister-in-law is a selfish bully, and my husband lets her treat me however she wants without saying a word," I said. "I've had enough. What can I do?" Catherine nodded and took notes. "This sounds like emotional abuse and a toxic home life. That's definitely reason for divorce, especially with the proof you've collected." "What about our stuff?" I asked carefully. "We just bought a new house. If your documents show you've been the main one paying the bills and buying things, you'll most likely keep the house," Catherine explained. "You could also get a good amount of alimony." That made me smile a little. The idea of walking away from Austin and his drama and keeping the house felt like a small win. We spent the next hour planning how to start the divorce. Catherine told me to separate my money from our shared bank accounts right away, just to be safe. As I left her office, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Power. I had spent years feeling helpless while Janice caused chaos and Austin just stood by. But now things were different. I stopped by a store on my way home and bought an expensive video camera. If I was really going to end this marriage, I needed strong proof. I had to be ready. Over the next few days, I got to work. I made sure to keep the camera recording every time Janice came over and started one of her angry rants. One day, she noticed it and gave me a suspicious look. "What's with the camera, weirdo? Are you filming a movie about how awesome I am as an aunt?" she sneered. I gave her a tight smile. "Just capturing some family memories." Austin looked confused, his eyebrows scrunched, but didn't say anything. He was completely clueless about what I was planning. With every new video of Janice acting out, I felt more sure of what I had to do. She had gone too far, and Austin had failed to stand up for me. They both needed to face the results of their actions, no matter how serious. So I quietly started putting together a plan that would change all of our lives. With all the proof I had collected, it was time to set the trap and get my final payback. I decided to use Janice's love for attention against her by throwing a huge housewarming party. When I mentioned the idea, her eyes lit up with excitement. "A real housewarming party," she said with a grin. "Finally, a chance to show off your fancy new house." I forced a cheerful smile. That's exactly what I was thinking. I want to celebrate our fresh start in this beautiful home. "Well, you know I'm taking charge of the planning," Janice said, flipping her hair. "You've got no taste or class." I nodded like I agreed. "Of course. I'm happy to let you take full control. Invite whoever you want, go all out with decorations and food, whatever you think is best." Janice laughed with joy. "This is going to be a party no one will ever forget. Leave it all to me, sis." Over the next few weeks, she went overboard with the planning. She kept texting and calling me about the expensive flower decorations, the fancy food, and all the over-the-top things she was ordering. One day, Austin pulled me aside, looking worried. "Are you sure it's a good idea to let Janice run the whole party? You know how she gets." I waved away his concern. "It's a big celebration for our dream home. Why not make it special? Let Janice go all out." He still looked unsure, but I just smiled to calm him down. Let him think I was being overly kind and generous. He had no idea what I was really doing. A few days before the party, Janice called me, sounding nervous. "We have a little situation, Gloria." "Funny story," Janice said nervously. "I kind of went over the budget." "And?" I asked calmly. "Well, I need you to cover what's still owed to the vendors and rental companies," she said quickly. "Just put it on your credit card. We'll figure it out later." I had to stop myself from smiling. "Oh, I can't do that," I said. "I'm out of money after buying the house and everything." "What?" Janice shrieked. "You told me to go all out. What am I supposed to do now?" In a fake, sorry tone, I said, "Oh no, I should have warned you about my money situation. Why don't you just put everything on your credit card? I'm sure it'll be fine." There was a long silence on the other end as she realized what had just happened. You little trickster," she finally said, furious. "This was all a setup." "I don't know what you're talking about," I replied sweetly. "Just go ahead and pay for everything, sis. I'll see you at the party." She started yelling and swearing, but I hung up the phone with a smile. Everything was falling into place. The housewarming party turned out even more over the top than I had imagined. Janice had really gone all in, just like I hoped. The backyard sparkled with fairy lights. Flowers were everywhere. Tables were packed with fancy snacks and champagne. Guests arrived and couldn't stop staring at the expensive decorations. They were clearly impressed. Janice soaked it all in, smiling proudly and pretending to be a classy host. "Isn't this just fabulous?" she kept saying in a fake fancy voice, waving her arms like she was a queen. Austin leaned in toward me at one point, lowering his voice. Babe, this seems kind of extreme, even for Janice. How much did all this cost? I gently patted his arm. Don't worry, Janice is covering it all. He looked confused, but I didn't explain. Let him stay clueless a little longer. As the party reached its peak, Janice grabbed the microphone to give a toast. She tapped it with her champagne glass, trying to quiet everyone. May I have everyone's attention, please? She shouted, her voice slurred. She had clearly had too much to drink already. The crowd went silent and turned to look at her. Janice stood tall, acting like she was the star of the night. You can all see I've thrown one amazing party to celebrate my sister-in-law's new house, Janice began, her words already a little slurred. Gloria may have had the money to buy this place, but she sure doesn't have the class to throw a proper party. A few people gave awkward laughs, but most just glanced around uncomfortably. Janice didn't notice. She kept going. That's why I stepped in, with my amazing taste and connections, to turn this plain little house into something truly special, she said, waving her glass and almost spilling her drink. So raise your glasses to me, she added proudly, the real genius behind this unforgettable night. That was my moment. I stepped up and smoothly took the microphone from her hand. You're absolutely right, Janice, I said calmly. You did plan every part of this big fancy event all by yourself. Janice looked surprised for a second, then smirked and reached for the mic. That's right. Give your fairy godmother some credit for once. I held the mic out of her reach and raised my hand to quiet her. And that's why, I said louder now, I think it's only fair you get full credit for everything, including paying for it. The crowd went silent. Janice's fake smile slowly turned into shock. That's right, I continued. Janice kindly offered to cover all the costs, food, decorations, rentals, everything. She insisted on handling the whole thing. Janice's face turned pale. You liar, she stammered. But I didn't stop. I looked out at the stunned guests and said, so let's give one more big round of applause to the woman who spent over $200,000 on this party, right out of her own empty wallet. No one clapped. The room was completely silent. All eyes were on Janice. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked frozen in place. What's wrong, Janice? I said into the mic. I thought you liked being the center of attention. With a loud cry, she turned and ran out of the party, knocking over a tray of champagne glasses as she fled. The crashing sound of breaking glass was the only thing anyone could hear. The mood at the party broke completely. Guests stood around quietly, unsure of what to say. The night, like those shattered glasses, was in pieces. I stood there holding the microphone, still full of adrenaline after calling out Janice in front of everyone. For a brief moment, I felt a small pang of guilt for doing it so publicly. But that feeling disappeared as soon as Austin came storming over, his face full of anger. What the hell was that? He hissed, grabbing my arm hard. How could you embarrass my sister like that? I pulled my arm away. Are you serious right now? After everything she's done to me, you're still defending her? All I did was give Janice a taste of her own medicine. Austin's hurt expression quickly turned into fury. That was too far. I know she's not perfect, but she's still family. This was cruel. And what about me? I shouted, my voice rising. When have you ever stood up for your wife against your sister's abuse? Austin opened his mouth like he was going to argue, but I didn't give him the chance. I pulled my phone from my purse. Don't bother lying. I have proof. With a few taps, I played a recording I had saved from months ago. Janice's voice rang out, sharp and angry. God, your wife needs to get off her high horse, she said. Always has to act like she's queen of everything. Then came Austin's quiet voice. Come on, Janice, don't talk about Gloria like that. Oh, shut up, you spineless worm, she snapped. If you had any guts, you'd put your nagging wife in her place. I stopped the recording and stared at Austin. That's just one example. I've got hours of this. Janice insulting me while you say nothing. The remaining guests were quiet, clearly uncomfortable with everything being laid out in the open. But I didn't care. I was done pretending our marriage was fine. Austin's face turned red, but he didn't try to argue. He knew it was all true. "You're right," he said finally, avoiding my eyes. I should have handled Janice better. But this public scene was too much. My anger boiled over at that. "Too much," I shouted, throwing the mic to the ground with a loud thud. "You don't get to say what's too much, not after standing by while your sister disrespected and humiliated me for years." I took a deep breath, trying to calm down. I knew I needed to keep control now. When I spoke again, my voice was calm but serious. "I'm done letting you and Janice walk all over me," I said. "That's why I've already met with a divorce lawyer, and I've started separating our finances." Gasps spread through the crowd. Austin's eyes went wide with shock and fear. You can't be serious," he stammered. "Babe, please, let's not do anything crazy." In response, I pulled out my phone again and played more recordings. "This new house is so boring and plain," Janice's voice said mockingly. "If you were smart, you'd put it in my name so I could fix it up and make it actually nice." I stared at Austin. "Were you planning to give our house away to help your sister's fantasy?" He shook his head quickly, a little spark of courage finally showing.
"No."
"No, of course not. She was just joking." I played another clip. This time, Janice's voice was slurred and rude. "Gloria doesn't deserve a hardworking guy like you. You should have married someone who knows how to keep quiet and obey her husband." That one hit Austin hard. You could see it on his face. His pride was hurt by the suggestion that he was being controlled. "That's enough," he said, clearly upset. "What do you want from me, Gloria?" "A divorce," I said flatly. "It's already started. I'll be keeping the house and most of our things, because after everything Janice has done, and you allowing it, that's what I deserve." The guests fell silent again. Even Janice's teenage sons looked shocked. It was clear to everyone now that Janice's behavior had torn the family apart. Austin opened and closed his mouth like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Finally, all he managed to say was, "You're really giving up on us this easily?" I looked at him one last time, cold and steady. "I gave up on our marriage years ago, Austin. You were just too blind to notice, too busy living in Janice's fantasy world." With that, I turned and walked away, leaving Austin and the guests behind to deal with the mess I had finally stopped cleaning up. The divorce that followed was surprisingly simple. I showed the judge all the proof I had gathered, everything about Austin ignoring me and Janice constantly treating me badly. Just like my lawyer Catherine said would happen, the judge ruled in my favor. I was awarded the house and a large alimony payment. Mr. Tyler clearly failed to give his wife a safe and supportive home, the judge said firmly, as Austin lowered his head in shame. He also made no real effort to protect her from his sister's harmful behavior. Janice sat quietly in the back of the courtroom, no longer dressed in fancy clothes. She had been forced to sell many of her things just to pay off the huge catering bills from the party disaster. The smug look she always wore was finally gone. As for Austin, the divorce left him nearly broke. He had once had a good job, but now he was sleeping on friends' couches, looking like a shadow of the man he used to be. Outside the courthouse, he tried one last time to change my mind. His eyes were red and tired. "Gloria, babe, we can fix this, right? Just give me another chance." I looked at him without any emotion. After all the years of him making excuses and letting me suffer, his words meant nothing. "We had something special before all this revenge stuff," he said desperately. "That guy who loved you is still in here." I shook my head. "That guy never existed, Austin. You were always a weak man who let his sister treat his wife like trash just to stay in her good graces." My words hit him hard. He opened his mouth to speak, but couldn't get anything out. It was like the truth finally broke him. That's when Janice stormed over, her face twisted with anger. "You ungrateful little witch," she spat. "After everything my family did for you, all the support we gave your dumb ideas." I laughed bitterly. "Support? You mean all the times I paid your bills while you insulted me in my own home?" Janice's hands curled into fists like she wanted to hit me. But I wasn't scared anymore. I stood tall and looked her straight in the eyes. "The free ride is over," I said. "No more using me. No more walking all over me. You're going to end up broke and alone, drowning in the mess you made. Janice flinched, like my words had struck her just as hard. It felt like I had slapped Janice, even though I hadn't touched her. For once, the loud, controlling woman had no smart reply or cruel joke. My words had hit harder than anything she could have said. Austin leaned against the courthouse wall, watching the argument like a man who had already lost. "Is this really how you want our family to end?" he asked weakly. "Do we have to burn it all down?" I gave him a hard look. "You already did that, Austin. A long time ago. Every time you chose your sister's selfish demands over your wife's happiness, you destroyed us." His shoulders dropped. He finally seemed to understand how much damage he had caused. Janice just stood there, staring at me with hate in her eyes. I could tell she was already thinking about how to get back at me. But I didn't care anymore. As I turned and walked away from them both, I felt calm and free. For years, they had drained me, taking my energy, my peace, and my self-worth. But not anymore. The house was mine now. I had earned it with hard work and sacrifice, while they took advantage of me and tore me down. As I pulled into the driveway, I smiled. My beautiful, quiet home was waiting for me, a peaceful place I had finally won back. All the painful memories of Janice's cruelty and Austin's weakness began to fade as I stepped through the front door. This was the beginning of a brand new chapter in my life, one where I was free. I would chase new dreams, find new goals, and maybe even meet someone who truly saw my strength and supported me instead of breaking me down. But that could wait. For now, I simply enjoyed the feeling of surviving everything they put me through. I came out stronger, and I was finally ready to live the life I truly deserved.